James Biden, President Biden's younger brother, gave his testimony to Congress this Wednesday as part of the House-led impeachment inquiry. Our Washington correspondent, Luis Martinez, has more.
It's a big day for the House-led impeachment inquiry against President Joe Biden. Around 10:30 a.m. this morning, in this building right behind me, the O'Neill office building, the president's brother, James Biden, entered to be interviewed by House Oversight Committee members. Congressman Jamie Raskin, the Democratic ranking member of the House Oversight Committee, alleged that the impeachment inquiry no longer had credible evidence against the Biden family.
Now we know that Russian intelligence operatives were behind creating the propaganda and disinformation at the very foundation of this investigation. So I think it's time for Chairman Comer and the Republicans to fold up the circus tent, and we should get back to work for the American people.
Raskin argued that the indictment of the FBI informant Alexander Smirnov proves all bribery allegations against the Biden family are false. Republican Congressman Matt Gaetz and William Timmons thought otherwise.
Today we're asking questions to James Biden, and I don't think that's really Burisma focused, that's more China focused. So we're going to ask him about some of his business relationships with the Chinese.
I think it's interesting that the FBI didn't investigate the allegations made years ago, and now they've indicted the confidential source that they trusted for years and paid him hundreds of thousands of dollars. So, there's a lot of questions I have regarding that.
James Biden was questioned over payments made to his brother, President Biden, for a total of $240,000 in between 2017 and 2018. According to the White House, the transactions were a loan repayment. A week from today, Wednesday, February the 28th, Hunter Biden, the president's son, is expected to testify in this impeachment probe. He will testify in front of House Oversight and House Judiciary Committee members. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Luis Eduardo Martinez, NTD News.
More breathing room or an added burden for President Biden? This is the lingering question as the president wipes out another $1.2 billion in student debt as he appeals to young voters. But Republicans say it's forcing taxpayers to foot the bill. Joining us now live is NTD's White House correspondent Iris Tao. Good evening, Iris. So what's in President Biden's announcement today, and who will it ultimately impact the most?
Good evening to you, Steve. So the White House today announced that it's wiping out another $1.2 billion in student debt for over 150,000 borrowers. And these are people who have been paying back their loans for at least the past 10 years and borrowed less than $12,000 to begin with. And President Biden, who's on a fundraising trip to California today, says he hopes that's going to help provide some relief to these Americans. Watch.
And there's more than 4 million of those borrowers had their monthly payments dropped to zero if they're living paycheck to paycheck below a certain level. This plan is the most generous repayment program ever, and today we're doing it even faster and quicker than ever before.
Today's announcement comes as President Biden is trying to appeal to more young voters in his 2024 re-election bid, and it also marks the latest move in the administration's piecemeal strategy after the Supreme Court last year struck down an even more sprawling and expensive plan proposed by President Biden. And to date, President Biden has wiped out at least $130 billion in student debt for over 4 million student borrowers. But Republicans have been criticizing this tactic used by the White House, saying that it's not actually helping to improve the lives for most Americans. Watch.
In the last 3 years, the Biden administration's Department of Education has put resources to prioritize their student loan schemes. But they've been unable to fulfill their basic responsibility mandated by Congress and essential to American families.
And also today, Republican Senator Joni Ernst accused President Biden of enacting socialist schemes, adding that taxpayers shouldn't have to foot the bill for a $1 billion student loan bailout. And Congressman Matt Rosendale also called it a slap in the face for responsible Americans who actually pay their loans back. Meanwhile, the White House is vowing to cancel even more student debt and to leave no stone unturned to find ways to do it. Steve.
NTD's Iris Tao reporting live from the White House. Thank you, Iris. And shifting back toward the center taking place within the Democratic Party when it comes to supporting Israel. A second member leaving the Progressive Caucus after disagreements over Israel and Hamas war. NTD's Melina Wisecup reports.
New York Congressman Richie Torres, a vocal supporter of Israel, is splitting with the Progressive Caucus amid disagreements with the group over the Israel-Hamas war. Although his exit is being kept low-key, the caucus has deleted his photo from the membership page on their website. NTD has reached out to Torres' office for further comment on the issue. And he's not the first member to leave the Progressive Caucus since the war broke out. The other, Representative Louis Frankel, left in November. Both of them voted with around 20 other Democrats to censure another member of the Progressive Caucus, Rashida Tlaib, over her rhetoric on Israel, using the phrase "from the river to the sea," which is understood as a call for the end of Israel as a Jewish state. Torres took to social media to condemn this, writing that the Progressive members' comments crossed, quote, "a line of hate speech that no public official should ever cross. Congress has a right to take a principled stand against hate speech, calling for the destruction of the world's only Jewish nation state." The Congressional Progressive Caucus has repeatedly pressured President Biden to withhold support from Israel and instead call for a ceasefire in the region. This has led the president to walk a thin line with how he responds to the conflict in Gaza. Although he publicly supports Israel, he has also recently criticized Israel's military response in Gaza, calling it over the top. And just this week, President Biden pushed an alternative UN resolution calling for a temporary ceasefire in Gaza. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Melina Weisskopf, NTD News.
The race for control over the U.S. House of Representatives is up for grabs. This says one political strategist, and former President Donald Trump being on the ballot, he says, motivates vote turnout on both sides. Joining me now to discuss the nuances of this race is national political strategist Brian Seichik. Brian Seichik, thank you so much for joining.
Happy to be here. Thank you.
Of course, Brian, in the race for control of the House of Representatives, there are about 17 Republicans representing districts where Biden won and about 5 Democrats representing districts where Trump won. Do you think Democrats have a chance to regain control of the House, or will Republicans maybe increase their majority here?
It's really too early to say. On the Republican side, give or take, you have maybe 10 seats. 2 in Arizona, 4 in California, 4 in New York. On the Democrat side, you have 10 seats, 2 in Michigan, 2 in Pennsylvania, and then others sort of scattered around the country. But you have some unique dynamics. In North Carolina, Republicans are likely going to pick up 3 seats because of the what feels like the every cycle redraw. In Alabama, because of a Supreme Court case, Democrats are going to pick up a seat there. Obviously, Republicans just lost 1 in New York. So it really is up for grabs. And a lot of folks sort of like to look to the presidential campaign for a guide. But the fact is, in both 16 and 20, congressional Republicans outperformed Donald Trump. So Trump's doing really well now. I mean, seeing the best numbers he's seen really since he entered the political scene. What that impact on the House races, if I knew, frankly, I'd be in Vegas right now, not here talking to you.
Yes, indeed, Brian. And to your point, Trump last night in a town hall with Laura Ingraham on Fox News saying, that he's giving New York, the state of New York, considering giving them some serious campaign time. Polling does look promising there relative to previous years and situations. Still a big gap. But do you think he ultimately has a chance in New York State?
If Trump were to win New York, then we would be looking at a monstrous blowout. Not quite 1984 and 49 states, but if Trump were to somehow win New York, he would be easily north of 400 electoral votes. I really don't think it's likely. I think it's fun to do. And also I would assert that, and I don't know this for a fact, but part of the strategy would be to see the New York City Democrats just be so enraged with Trump there. That might provide its own tape or sort of clips for folks to use. So I really don't think there's a serious play to be had in New York, but it will drive Democrats crazy.
So, Brian, as you know, last midterms, everybody was kind of anticipating this red wave in the House of Representatives, at least. And, the House did take a slim majority, which they're feeling the effects of now. How do you think the GOP ground game might differ this year than it did 2 years ago?
Well, last time there was no Trump on the ticket. And the fact is Donald Trump is the greatest vote motivator in the history of time, both for the good and for the bad. So turnout, I expect to be the highest it's ever been. So the ground game is important, but the fact is with Trump on the ballot, that's all the motivation folks need, both to the good and to the not so good.
Brian Seichik, as always, really appreciate your perspective. Thank you for watching the Capitol Report. If you want to see our full broadcast, check us out at epochtv.com.